Hey everybody! Hey, welcome to Ayurveda Everyday with Talia. I am so happy to be here with you. So today we have a very special topic. This was requested by one of my favorite students, Natalie, and she wanted to know what in the hell should we be doing when we're in the throes of perimenopause and we are alternating between hot flashes and freezing cold temperatures. So I have a lot to say about this topic, but I'm going to do my best to keep it concise and tell you my top 3 tips for managing perimenopause and temperature dysregulation. So let's start with the whole perimenopause thing, okay? Just to give you some context of what that means in terms of where you are in your life cycle when you hit perimenopause and beyond. So, when we're born, most of you are already familiar with the doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. You know, you've been studying Ayurveda at least a little bit and have probably, if nothing else, heard of the 3 doshas. The doshas are the way that we talk about different body types, but also how symptoms manifest in the body and mind. They will be correlated with one or more of the doshas based on the type of symptom or the guna of the symptom, the quality of the symptom. So, for example, when I'm talking about hot flashes, I'm talking about heat. So, there is absolutely the pitta dosha, which is the dosha made up of fire and water, inherent in that symptom. When I'm looking at a freezing temperature, usually I'm going to be finding the Vata dosha, which is comprised of air and ether. Air and ether is gas and space and wind. So there's really no insulation when it comes to the Vata dosha, and so it gets freezing. Whereas the Kapha dosha, which is made up of earth and water, earth and water make mud. That's what we would build a house out of, especially if we were, making cob mud houses. So there's more insulation built into the kapha dosha, but because kapha is muddy, it can also become stagnant and cause dams in the rivers of your fluids, which if like if you have like freezing hands and freezing feet, that's not necessarily only a vata issue. That can also be a kapha issue because your circulation is slow or sluggish or, in a certain sense, incomplete, from an esoteric standpoint. So, one of the things that we want to get really clear about is what's happening for everyone when we go into perimenopause. We're all in a similar, well, most of the time, we're almost all in a similar time of life when perimenopause hits. So, when we're born, we are in the kapha phase of life. We are brand new and juicy and chunky. Like, you don't really want to see a skinny baby. You know what I'm saying? You want to see fat, durable, juicy babies who have tons of growth hormone in their system. And that's the phase that we're in from when we're born until we hit puberty. Then we start to um, build this build this store of the pitta dosha. I mean, it's already there, but that's when the pitta dosha really kind of comes forward for us as human beings, is right around puberty. And if any of you have been watching Sex Education on Netflix, I love that show, and I just watched a couple episodes yesterday. um, I feel like they really represent this super well in that show, of like these kids who are just, oh, I'm just a kid, and then they're like, no, I'm not. I'm like, something's happening to me. So that's when the pitta dosha is really coming forward in our lives. And we are in the pitta phase of life until we reach menopause. So perimenopause is that period of time, and it can last for various amounts of time for depending on the woman, um, before we hit menopause. And then menopause is this, where we start to be in this transition point where we are phasing out of the pitta time of life, which is the time of life of creation and procreation and ambition. I mean, it doesn't necessarily stop, especially these days at perimenopause. Of course it doesn't. But we are no longer like so in the throes of that phase, and we are moving towards the Vata phase of life, which is the coldest, lightest, driest, and hopefully wisest time of life. So if you are somebody who is just finding Ayurveda now, my hair looks so terrible today, so I'm just keeping it to one side. Um, if you are somebody who's finding Ayurveda in the perimenopausal phase of your life, congratulations. You are so, so blessed, and you are so stoked to have this medicine behind you, because it just becomes more and more and more important, in my opinion, the closer that we get to perimenopause and menopause. So you are in a phase of life where hot is meeting cold. So when there's all this temperature dysregulation that's happening, it makes sense given the time of life that we're in. It's like another thing about this is that hot and cold are total opposites, correct? Right? Same as black and white, they're total opposites. However, when we're talking about hot and cold, we are talking about pitta and vata. And one of the qualities or the gunas that both the pitta dosha and the vata dosha share in common is that they are both light, like lightweight. They don't have a lot of weightedness to them, based on the elements that make them up. Like fire is weightless, even though it's so massively powerful and can transform so much in our bodies and in our minds and in our spirits. And it's also the most destructive element. It doesn't have a lot of weight to it. Now, pitta is not only comprised of fire, it's made up of fire and water. But when we're talking about water as it relates to the pitta dosha, it's not the same as water like that you're drinking, from a river, or that you're boiling water for your morning drink. The water, when it's related to pitta, is more like fire is so transformative. It takes matter and it breaks it down into something else. Now sometimes it breaks it down into ash, but inside of the body it more often breaks things down into liquid. And so that liquid is part of what that water element is representing when we talk about the pitta dosha. And I think that's really important to understand, because water is part of both pitta and kapha doshas, but it's very different. When we're talking about water as it pertains to the kapha dosha, then we're more like real water, kidneys, urine, the bladder, like the way that that water flows through our body and stored in the body is more related to the kapha dosha than it is to the pitta one. So that lightness that is shared by both vata and pitta, they kind of, I see this all the time in my pitta vata pitta clients, where they're like, Talia, I don't know, like, am I hot or am I cold? I'm both, because that lightness, it's like, here's vata, here's pitta. It's like they kind of are, one is up, and it might cause the other one to go up. Or the other one is up and it causes the other one to go up. And so they're always kind of like calibrating against each other. And that can feel like madness when it results in true temperature dysregulation, where you're just like, I'm hot one minute, I'm freezing the next. It's a very annoying quality or situation to be dealing with. So let's talk about what you can do about it. Now, my first tip for you is probably going to raise more questions than answers, but every single person watching this video right now is totally unique. You are unique in every single thing about you. But if I want to keep it, super Ayurveda specific, you are definitely unique in your constitution. And even more than that, in the way that you manifest the elements through you. Like, I did this in the master class that I taught in this group last week. If you missed it, don't worry, I'll do it again at some point in the future. But it was for my Ayurveda Starter School course. And I showed a picture of me. I'm Vata Kapha. with low fire on my birth pulse, but I actively, because I know I have low fire, and that's a real tendency for me, would be for most people who are a combination predominantly of Vata and Kapha. I am very purposeful about building my internal fire. So I showed a picture of me, and then I showed a picture of my dog Zuzu, who is also Vata Kapha. And it was kind of a joke, like, look at me, look at my dog. I mean, obviously we look different. And plus she's 2 or almost 2, and I'm 48. But my point was, we are the same dosha, but we manifest how that looks and how that feels so differently. So every single one of you is different. You could be a Pitta Kapha woman who has temperature dysregulation, or you could be a Vata Kapha woman, and you may have different things going on that are causing that temperature dysregulation, meaning you may have different forms of ama, which is an Ayurvedic word that means accumulation or toxicity or just even stuckness or stagnant energy that's collected. That's why I love the word accumulation. It's stagnancy that accumulates over time. You need to know what is causing this temperature dysregulation or hot flash or freezing temperature in your body. Is it a circulatory issue? Is it a digestive issue? Is it a those are usually going to be the two main ones. I mean, for all of us at perimenopause, on some level, it's a hormonal issue. So, are you progesterone dominant or are you estrogen dominant? Really, really helpful to get clear on these questions so that you can determine the root cause of your particular perimenopausal or menopausal symptoms, because they are going to be different for everyone. Now, that being said, we are all, when we're going through perimenopause, we are all in the same phase of life where the pitta dosha is sort of like, I've done my part for your lifetime. I'm starting to phase things out, but I'm not done yet. So I'm going to have this last hurrah and bother you and wake you up and disturb you before I completely give way to the vata time of your life. And so that is a hot and dry time of life. So, you all know, if you've followed me for any amount of time, you all know that I am absolutely obsessed with hydration. I absolutely believe that hydration is our fountain of youth when it comes to healing the body and, you know, feeling good as you age and change and evolve, especially beyond, you know, your mid 30s. Um, so, hydration is really key. So my question to you is, if you're, Natalie is the one who asked this question, Natalie, how's your hydration routine? Do you have one right now? Now, I know Natalie pretty well because she's taken my Rad Cleanse multiple times, and we went to UC Santa Barbara together, so we have our own special connection. But so I'm going to guess that her hydration routine is pretty great. But we all go in and out of having our routines be awesome. So if you've been in sort of a spell where your hydration hasn't been as great as it could be, now is the time to really step that up. The easiest way to create a really stable hydration routine in your everyday life is to plan for it. So you have a plan that every morning after you brush your teeth, scrape your tongue, floss your teeth, you have a hydration routine set in your day. Now, when we're talking about perimenopause, we could medicate that water that we drink in the morning and make it even more powerful, um, in terms of what it's the actions that it's taking, or playing out, that will help reduce temperature dysregulation. I'll get into that in a moment. So planning for morning hydration, for me, that's really the easiest thing. I'm just like, this is what I do every morning before I meditate, before I exercise, before I check my phone, before I email, before I do any Ayurvedic body care, or yoga. I take care of my mouth. I scrape my tongue, I brush my teeth, I floss my teeth, and then I hydrate. I really, I mean, I don't know, I guess technically I'm in perimenopause just because of my age, but I'm not having a lot of symptoms. So I'm not yet like, oh my God, it's really bothering me. Thank you, universe. Um, but I think a lot of that is because of my Ayurvedic practice is very integrated into my everyday life. That's what I'm teaching you to do as well. So make that morning hydration a non-negotiable part of your day. And then another thing that you can do, and this is one of my favorite things because we're all so busy, or most of us are busy, um, and you can end up, and especially if you live in a cold climate, you might not feel thirsty, and so you're not remembering to hydrate. It's not even occurring to you until the end of the day when you're like, oh great, now I have a hot flash. Like here I am in the middle of the night not being able to sleep, and I have a hot flash, and now I'm freezing. And if we could take it back to hydration, help being a preventative practice from having that happen. I'm just making sure I'm recording. Yes, I am. Um, you know, that can help to reduce those types of symptoms. So what I love to do is I have a couple different mason jars. I have one that is a 4 cup size. That's a 4 cup size. I think that's a quart. And then I have another one that is a half-gallon size that is 8 cups. So for example, today, just to give you an idea, today I woke up, I did my morning routine, and I hydrated like a lot. Then I filled up one of my 8 cup mason jars with water, and I added some elements to it that are really helpful for where I'm at right now and what I'm dealing with. But just to not keep a secret, what I put in it was a bunch of seaweed, excuse me. Usually I use kombu, which is kelp. It's the most mucilaginous, thickest of all of the raw wild seaweeds that you can, easily find in the market. But I'm out of it right now. I have no idea how I got out of it. I usually have a ton. So I use dulse because it's also warming, and here I am in the middle of winter. I added a little bit of corn silk tincture because I'm working on my kidney and adrenal and bladder health right now. And I also put some black Himalayan salt, which is especially good for balancing the Vata dosha. So that's now on my counter, and I just walk past it all day. Every time I go to the kitchen or the bathroom, I see it and I'm like, oh, I'm going to pour some in my cup and bring it back to my workplace or wherever I am at the moment. And it helps me to drink it. And then I have a goal of however much is in that jar, is like, that's what my goal is to drink this entire thing by the end of the day. So hopefully that helps you in terms of creating a hydration routine. But here are some specific herbs that you could be putting into your water, and this could be into hot water. This could even be into warm milk, to help reduce the amount of temperature dysregulation that you're going through. And I also want to give some specific herbs for hot flashes themselves. So some of you may be familiar with this book, The Yoga of Herbs. This is probably, aside from Ayurvedic cookbooks, this is my favorite Ayurvedic resource. I am obsessed with it. Look, it's falling apart. I I use it all the time. And on page 46, I'm going to read you what it says. This is written by Dr. Lad and Dr. Frawley. They are two of the most esteemed Ayurvedic practitioners in the world. Now this might not make sense to everybody, but I want to give this to you anyway because this is specific to what we're talking about. Because the properties of the doshas are mixed with those of ama, which I talked about earlier, accumulation, herbs which may relieve a dosha normally and may be effective in a sama, it's called a sama condition, like a neutral condition. Um, while they may relieve a dosha, they may not be, or sorry, not, I'm reading this wrong. It's not a pacified condition. Let me read this again. Sorry, I'm totally going all over the place. Because the properties of the dosha are mixed with those of ama, so this is when you have a lot of ama in a particular dosha, Herbs which may normally relieve a dosha may not be effective in a sama condition when we have excess ama. Conversely, herbs which normally aggravate a dosha may relieve it when we're in a sama condition. We must discriminate not only the dosha, but whether it is with or without ama. Sama means with, nirama means without. So, some of the remedies that will be recommended for you might be in your, if you're really been practicing Ayurveda for a while and you feel like sort of have your list of what are good for your dosha and what's not. When you have a lot of ama, sometimes those remedies shift and you need to use them temporarily, not necessarily long term. So, for example, if you are somebody who's getting a ton of hot flashes, but you are not pitta predominant yourself, you can still use a lot of cooling, bitter, sweet herbs to reduce the impact of those hot flashes. I'm a huge fan of doing things preemptively, meaning using Ayurveda as a preventative measure, not just reaching for it when you are in the throes of a symptom. So, one great herb that is both bitter and sweet is marshmallow root. And marshmallow root is this beautiful, very sturdy, very hydrating and ojas building herb. One time I actually tried to make my own marshmallow root powder, because I personally really love powdered teas. And it took hours to pulverize that marshmallow root. I was like, this is such a strong, powerful root. So one thing you can do is make marshmallow root infusion, and I believe it's already uploaded to our group, the recipe for marshmallow. It's called marshmallow root cold infusion tea. I believe that you'll find it in the file section of this group, but if it isn't there, I'm going to add it after this video. But drinking 4 cups of marshmallow root tea every day is huge. Now, the way that hugely helpful, I should say, for managing and reducing hot flashes, as well as restoring deep hydration to the deeper tissues of your body. Now, marshmallow root is a very tender, it's both really strong, but we don't want to cook marshmallow. We want to extract its essence through more gentle measures, and it really responds well to cold. So when you make marshmallow root tea, it's actually ideal to make it through this cold infusion process. And then once it's infused through cold water, you'll see what I mean when you see the recipe. Then you can take that and you can warm it up. You just never want to boil it. So for myself, as a Vata predominant person, I run really cold. I almost never just pull my marshmallow root tea out of the fridge and start drinking it. And I don't recommend that you do that either, no matter what your dosha is, because adding something really cold or iced or that's been refrigerated for a long time to your digestive system is going to cause some constriction. And another common cause of temperature dysregulation, especially as it relates to perimenopause, is digestive issues. And so you want to make sure that your digestive system is really, really in great shape. And don't add anything cold, super cold in temperature in order to accomplish that. So, marshmallow root's a great herb. Shatavari is another great herb that is both sweet and bitter. There's so much attention given to ashwagandha, and for excellent reason. But when you have a lot of ama in your system, and that can show up in all kinds of ways, ashwagandha is actually contraindicated, and that is not talked about enough. And it's definitely written in this book, which is how I know that, and I also know it from studying about this herb with my teacher, or with my teachers, I should say. So, Shatavari is kind of ashwagandha's cousin, and as a rejuvenating, restorative root that's great for your adrenals and great for your whole helping your body adapt to stress. It is an adaptogen, um, but where ashwagandha is heating and warming for the body, shatavari is cooling. So a really wonderful herb that you can use to manage yourself when you are in the throes of both perimenopause and or temperature dysregulation. Now, when it is temperature dysregulation and you're alternating between I'm hot, I'm cold, I'm hot, I'm cold, I'm burning up, I'm freezing, then what I recommend is that your shatavari is taken as a warm tea. And and you can, the way I use shatavari, sometimes I will get the loose root and I will put it in a French press with hot but not boiling water, and I'll take it that way. And other times I will get shatavari ground up as a powder. I'm going to give you links to all of these things that I'm mentioning, by the way, so you don't have to search for them after this video. They'll all be, and if you're watching the replay, they'll all be in the notes for this video that you're watching right now. But if I add powdered shatavari, then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add that to a warm milk with some ghee or coconut oil, and I will blend that up just to emulsify it and make it even tastier and yummier. This is what I did this morning. I do it most mornings these days. Because that fat, either the ghee or the coconut oil, will help to carry that herb to the deepest layers of your tissues. And you want that, right? Because all perimenopause issues, to some degree, in some way or another, are affecting us hormonally. And our hormonal system, our endocrine system, is a deeper tissue of the body. In fact, I would say it's like you really got to get in there. It's like one of the deeper tissues, the deepest tissues. So I really recommend that. And then because the milk will be warm, that is the middle point between hot and freezing, is warm. So, having your food be warm and your drinks be warm are really helpful as well. I'm kind of going all over the place. So here, I'm going to recap the tips. Number one, what's the cause of your particular temperature dysregulation? Is it digestive? Is it circulatory? Is it lymphatic? What's going on with you? Where are you holding ama? Where are you holding excess that's creating either a blockage or a depletion that is resulting in this temperature dysregulation? Number two, create a really strong hydration routine. And with your hydration routine, you can add herbs. So we've talked about marshmallow root, I've talked about shatavari, but you could also look at cardamom, which is a wonderful herb for it's just an in the middle temperature spice. Cardamom is like the kind of the mama of all the, I'm just really gentle and mellow and warm without being too heating. I'm also an expectorant. I'm also a digestive. I'm also really helpful for balancing the hormonal system. I being cardamom. um, and another herb that I want to talk about, or a family of herbs, are Italian herbs and spices. So, like marjoram, specifically marjoram, actually, oregano, rosemary, dill, parsley, cilantro, basil. Italian spices and herbs they're not necessary. Some of them are more heating than others, like basil and oregano are the hottest. Tarragon can be in this list, but Italian herbs are activating. They make things get on the move without adding too much heat. So in a certain sense, they are also warming, but my point with recommending these herbs is that they're really great for moving the circulation of your lymph and your blood, which is what we need to have ultimately really good digestion and really good hormonal health. So, how that may look in a tea is, it's not that common really to put Italian herbs into teas, but you totally can. You can totally harvest rosemary from your garden or basil from your garden and just make a tea out of it. The same way that you would make fresh mint tea or fresh lemongrass tea, fresh lemon balm tea. So that's one idea, but you can also add Italian spices to all or most of your meals. And what I love to do is just make spice mixes that are really simple, and I kind of know how they're going to taste through the I have a sense of the flavor profile. So, one that would work for improving circulation would be like marjoram with black pepper and cardamom. If you need some extra digestive support, maybe put some coriander in there too, or some turmeric, which would add even more of that bitter taste, which is really good for cooling the body down. And then take that spice mix, just equal parts of each one of the spices I just mentioned, and add that to anything that you're eating that's savory. And that can be a really great help as well. Now, when I talk about spices and I talk about herbs, right now, for the sake of this video, I'm talking about putting them into your food and into your drinks. But this also applies to, when you're making your own abhyanga, which is your own kind of medicated body oil. I put medicated in quotes because we are using food, herbs, and spices as medicine, but it's not actual, prescription medicine. And I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner, so I'm not allowed to prescribe medicine, which, just between you and me, is so lame. I mean, only because we're talking about food, herbs, and spices as medicine, and they are medicine. So whatever. Anyway, you get my gist. Um, um, I lost my train of thought. um, but when you're making like your own body oil or your own salt scrub or something like that, if you are well versed in essential oils, you can use some of these ideas that I'm giving you in that realm too, but that will be for another class or another video. Now, my third tip is my third and final tip, I guess I've already touched on it, is about circulation. So, if you are exercising, but you're not also dry brushing, or you're dry brushing, but you're not also exercising, or you're doing really hard workouts, but you're not counterbalancing them with yoga or stretching or something that's restorative, you need to make sure that your circulatory self-care is really, really good. Now, I'm going to be talking more about this actually this coming Sunday, February 7th, which is my mom's birthday. So I'm going to be spending the day with my mom as well, or the morning with my mom. But after I hang out with my mom, I am going to be part of this menopause, like how to work with menopause and perimenopause through yoga, Ayurveda, and nutrition. It's I'm actually not totally sure if it's free or not. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. But it's happening this Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific, and I'm going to go into even more detail on this topic, and gear it even more towards women who are actually in menopause, active menopause, this Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. So I will give you the link. There's going to be lots of links in this video that you can go to. And then if you know or have the feeling that the ama that is at the root cause of your temperature dysregulation or symptoms that are coming up for you, it's so important that you get that in order. Your digestive system is the root system of your body. It affects everything. So I do have a very short and sweet and winter specific 7-day cleanse coming up. It starts on Wednesday, February 10th. Actually, yes, it starts on that day. And then the 7 days, like we kind of move through 7 days of cleansing together as a group. And I do that through daily emails and a membership site. It's not a course that takes up a lot of your time, which is why I love it. And I think why most people who take it love it. But there is an orientation video, there is a cleanse manual, and those are the things that you receive the day the course opens on Wednesday, February 10th. And then you have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to get ready, physically, mentally, emotionally, and I help you with that in the orientation. And then on Monday, February 15th is the day that we really kick off the cleanse and are actually in cleanse mode for 7 days. So that can make a huge difference digestively, lymphatically, hormonally. It's only $149. I think that's a steal for how much information you get. It is a kapha reducing, ama reducing cleanse. And you'll learn a lot about how to nurture your kidneys and adrenals in this course because those are the two primary organs of the season of winter. And then if you're a little bit like, how do I figure out what the root cause is for me? Work with me privately or work with another Ayurvedic practitioner privately. I am totally seeing clients both virtually online and also in person in Santa Cruz, California. So I'm always available. I love working with you one on one. There's so much you can get out of a session. And if you're not sure, you need more, kind of want to see how other people feel about it, look at Ayurveda Every Day with Talia on Google and also inside my Facebook business page, and you'll see lots of testimonials. Those are primarily given from people who have worked with me privately. So, yeah, so I hope you got a ton out of this video. I'm not able to see your comments or your questions because of the way I'm filming this Facebook Live, but I will go in and check it out. And if you are watching this video on YouTube, thank you. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and know that you can totally join the Facebook group where I give even more resources, recipes, and awesome information. That Facebook group is called Ayurveda Every Day with Talia, and it is open to people who want to be there. So thanks so much. I will see you again very soon, and so bye for now.